Hello and welcome to this edition of Dialogue's year-end special series. I'm Yang Ray. The year 2016 will be written large in the history of feminism. The world started the year with hopes of seeing both the first female UN Secretary General and first female President of the United States. Neither came to pass. Instead, we saw the downfall of female presidents in both Brazil and South Korea. Are chances of a world run by women beginning to crumble? Are women leaders held to stricter standards than men? What's in store for women in public roles in 2017? Today, I'm happy to be joined by two female guest speakers, Claire Pearson from the British Chamber of Commerce and He Wenping from Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Stay with us. If we nominate People of the Year for 2016, women politicians feature prominently. They may go down in history not as landmark symbols of success, but rather stories of failure or victims of male chauvinism.
This loss hurts, but please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it.
Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, ending her dream to be the first female president in U.S. history. Two women presidents were impeached. Madame Park of the Republic of Korea and Madame Rousseff of Brazil were both involved in corruption scandals. Prime Minister May of the UK was sworn in after the UK voted to leave the European Union.
And I know, because we're Great Britain, that we will rise to the challenge.
Is this a setback for the regional integration of the EU following the refugee crisis? Chancellor Merkel of Germany comes under huge pressure following terrorist attacks and the rise of the ultra-right movement. Can she survive the next general election? And Tsai Ing-wen, leader of the pro-secession DPP in Taiwan, has suffered a devastating fall in her approval rating despite proactive moves to win support from an unpredictable Donald Trump. These are the women leaders and black swans in 2016. Welcome to Dialogue. Looking back at the U.S. presidential campaign, do you think that country was not ready yet to accept a female president?
My personal view, Ray, is that America is ready to accept a woman president, but it has to be the right woman. I think the best speech of that election came from Michelle Obama. You have to have somebody who can unite classes, unite races, not somebody who is a polarizing force in politics.
And particularly after she said, "You go low, we go high." And she immediately appealed to the mind and heart of Americans. Is that your hunch?
I agree. I think she'd been above the people for too long. President is the ultimate servant of the people. You have to be ready to connect to the ordinary people. Most people don't live in Washington. They don't live a life on the Hill. They don't drive in a cavalcade. A lot of them are just fighting to keep a job, keep their head above water financially. She has to connect to those people.
But Wenping, I'm afraid we cannot forget that almost half of the American electorate, if not half of the turnout in the election, were supportive of a man who was notoriously known for racial discrimination and perhaps also for gender discrimination. Donald Trump, the president-elect, was voted into office.
You know, when I observe this presidential campaign between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I haven't heard too much saying this is a choice between a man and a woman, or this is a hard choice between like old man, like a politician, whatever. They are comparing to say it's a choice between a crazy guy and honest woman, whatever. They use those things, crazy. Another is honest or not honest.
Excuse me, were you saying that she was honest? Well, that's very controversial.
Yeah, this is observer. I collecting the public opinion. You know why I think Hillary Clinton lost her campaign? It's not because she's a woman. Actually, when she did the first campaign with Obama, at that time, she said, she used the same excuse. She said, now I think American people maybe is not ready for a female president. Now they have been ready for accepting very first African American president. But maybe this is next years later, maybe they were ready for accepting a female president. That's the excuse
but
I heard. Well, 8 years ago. But now this time, even herself didn't use that as an excuse, saying now because my failure is because people hasn't ready for accepting a female president. She didn't say that even by herself. So we have to aware of that.
But I wonder if both of you are clearly aware of the demographic roadmap of the American elections, with obviously less male voters going for Hillary Clinton. Does that somehow reflect the vulnerabilities of this candidate herself, or for a general candidate of a woman?
I think a lot of it is about timing and atmosphere. And right now, while America is not growing quickly, it's about the economy. They want the person who can put the dollar back in their pocket, who can make America great. And Trump really played on that. Hillary, yes, less men voted for her, but I think there were men concerned about the economy. The problem with America is some of the men will never vote for a woman. Because America, it's not just California and New York. There's bush country. I mean, I turned up in Texas once, and I was traveling on a business trip with a man, and they said, "Oh, you're traveling with a gentleman." I'm like, what? As a European, you know, we're a little beyond that. You know, one thing I did find is that evangelical right-wing America is a pretty scary place. There's a very literal group who very literally interpret the Bible about basically women should be at home. And this gang, they're never going to vote for a woman. It is a fact. There's a hardcore who won't vote for a woman.
Perhaps our focus in the election might be misplaced. Because after all, most of the Americans would just vote for a new face instead of talking about the gender issue. Having said this, what about the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom? This year, your country saw yet another woman politician stepping into power. She is the second woman to become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom after a vote for leaving the European Union. Do you think your country is, after all, more experienced and ready to accept a woman politician? And what do you think of her background that qualifies her for this position?
I think women are given a reasonably fair crack of the whip in politics in the UK. I mean, both of the women that I work with in politics in China representing the UK, they're both women. The ambassador of the UK to Britain is a woman. The head of the British Council for China is a woman. It makes a difference. So there's a trickle-down effect. If the Prime Minister is a woman, if the Queen is a woman, then women further down have role models to which they can aspire.
But the Queen is known for saying, "I'm not amused."
She's not amused.
That's a lack of British humor. What do you think of this prominent feature of British politics, always having very clever, very intellectual women in politics?
You know, I see a different political culture between European continent and the United States. You know, in terms of who we're going to be leader, female or male, I think European countries are leading the way, not the United States. United States is still debating about, are we ready for accepting a female president? But this is no longer a question in the European continent. You see, the Lady Thatcher has been serving as a prime minister for more than 10 years, and in UK, and as early as 1970s, that's a Cold War era, and Merkel.
But when President Obama said famously, the United States is ready to lead the world for yet another 100 years, despite the fact about the identity of the first generation of the descendants who rode the Mayflower to get to the American continent.
Obama's words, I think, also agree with his words. He's talking about the comprehensive power of the United States in terms of military, you know, the budget of military spending in the United States is far, far ahead of all those following 7 countries combined together. So there's no question. U.S. will lead the way, yes, in all other means, but accept this leadership coming from female or whatever. So we are talking about this point. On this point, United States is lag behind. I think it's the European continent. That's a fact as well.
When we look at ladies on the up, yet another figure appears on our radar. Moving on to Asia, for example, where Aung San Suu Kyi became Myanmar's de facto leader when her party, National League for Democracy, won the campaign. does she have what it takes to bring an end to the civil war in Myanmar? I wonder if you have followed the civil strife that plagued this neighboring country of China for years.
I think that she does have the potential to do that, provided she can work with the important stakeholders. One thing I do worry about is she's been out of the country for so long. I wonder if her guanxi, her relationships have gone a bit cold. But also, I think she really needs to figure out who her relationships need to be with.
Oh, by the way, she has developed a very strong relationship with the United Kingdom because her husband...
Yeah, the thing is, she's got good guanxi with the UK, but is the UK going to run the port in Myanmar?
But this particular part of her background failed her in running for presidency.
Yeah, I know. You see, the problem is, in the old days, you had to be mates with the UK and the US. But nowadays, you don't need to bow and scrape to IMF and World Bank to get your railway, your port, your roads and your minerals out of the ground. An emerging country like Myanmar needs infrastructure development. So Aung San Suu Kyi might be better to develop a closer relationship with Beijing than the people who used to hold the purse strings.
Do you think she has done a good job as a laureate of a Nobel Peace Prize, I mean, given her track record, as well as the formidable presence of the military in Myanmar politics?
Ever since she become, now is by name is Prime Minister, but by real, yeah, he is the person really...
Ruling from behind the bamboo curtain.
Yes, really in charge.
Good
Even herself given these words. She said she is somebody above, yeah, those president in Myanmar. So I don't think the Nobel Peace Prize has been given to her to say, okay, you have done very good things after you became the leader. It's because all the process she has been fighting. So that's a reward to her fighting during the past long time. Similar like those Nobel Peace Prize has been given to the Obama. Obama, Mandela. Before, Mandela is different.
He's different.
Yeah,
and then Winnie Mandela is also very different. He was not ready to be voted into office. Having said this, what do you think of the lack of political experiences for those female candidates running for office? For example, Corazon Aquino was a widow of Benigno Aquino, who was assassinated by the dictator of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos, upon his arrival at the airport quite a few years back. Now, she launched the People's Revolution, which sent her into office. And yet, her political experience was zero. And yet, she was remembered. She went down history as one of the greatest political figures in that country, the Philippines. Similarly, Aung San Suu Kyi, she deserved credit for the bravery and for integrity in facing down the military junta in Myanmar. But what do you think of her ability to run and to assume the highest office in Myanmar?
We admired her past, the struggle, that's one thing, okay? And I think she deserves a lot of respect and reputation from those long time struggle. But another thing is what kind of ability, capacity she has to run this country, because it takes time to prove whether she is capable or not. But so far, because there's some time, maybe we can look back.
You know, I have expected you to say, look at Donald Trump. He has no political experience at all, but he won the campaign.
Yeah, but he has that experience for becoming a good, successful business person. But we talk about Aung San Suu Kyi. She has been house arrested for such a long time. Yeah, she hasn't done any business. She hasn't done any running things. But she has done one thing successful. That is to unite her party very strongly, very unity, and becoming very powerful.
And perhaps she's the only political figure that can be accepted by all major parties in the game, the military, the religious groups, and above all, her own party, the National League of Democracy. What do you think of this part of her political fortune?
I mean, before Myanmar can really develop economically, it has to be unified politically.
Right.
And if she can achieve that, then maybe there'll be a future leader who does the business. But this just might be her time. Nepotism is going out of fashion in politics, but it can get you into power. It won't sustain your position if you're not capable. If she gets in, creates a unified country, and then it develops economically, her position sustainable, but if not, she will be replaced.
And what do you think of yet another female politician, Tsai Ing-wen, leader of Taiwan? Are you surprised that she emerged as the most successful politician in Taiwan, where we saw an embattled KMT, and her approval rating is fast evaporating? after having months of a poor economic performance and, above all, very severe defiance from the mainland over the principle of one China. What do you think of her performance? Do you think she's going to destroy the future of Taiwan?
I think now she's leading the Taiwan into a very dangerous path, especially after this so-called congratulation call to this president-elected Mr. Trump, because she, I think, is overestimated this how to say, the power of the Taiwan, or this leverage role that Taiwan will be under if you put them under the president-elected Trump's foreign policy. This, if you put them on the scale, maybe she thought Taiwan is quite heavy. Okay, maybe can play its leverage role to call upon this attention coming from the White House, and then they will have some so-called one country, one, this Taiwan independence, whatever, because she doesn't recognize the one China policy. So which means she wants to lead another direction of this Taiwan's future. So I think she misjudged this situation and want to take a risky, this, maybe gambling to see, what kind of thing may happen. But now I think maybe she will feel some regret. Nowadays, she's traveling to those Middle American countries. Now we have heard that even St. Thomas Principle from the African continent now made resumed diplomatic ties with mainland China. So anyhow, there is a lot of debate saying, even including some American scholars, saying Taiwan now maybe will face a tough the foreign environment, international environment.
Well, Taiwan has always been regarded as a renegade province by the mainland since 1949, when the civil strife was brought to an end in theory, but not yet, because peace agreement has not been signed by the two sides. Therefore, the two sides across the Taiwan Strait are allegedly still in the war, right? Yeah. You are watching Dialogue with Claire Pearson and He Wenping. We're discussing why women politicians have been featured prominently in the year 2016. This is, by the way, a chapter of our special year-end series. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back. Claire, Angela Merkel will seek a fourth term in 2017, but her popularity had already fallen to a 5-year low before the latest terror attack on a Christmas market in Berlin. Her approval rating in September was just 45%. What's your prediction for her success next year? Because next year, the year 2017, will be an election year for both France and Germany.
I'll be frank, I'm a big fan of Angela Merkel. I think she's tried to put a policy in place during a period of transition in European politics, but I don't think she'll be able to win in the next election. It's not about her personal ability, it's about the trend in Europe towards a more polarizing, isolationist, patriotic period of individual sovereign states re-emerging. And I think what will happen is Germany will vote against her, we'll have more build-a-wall type politicians like we've had in the UK with Brexit, like we might have in France. And then all these countries, when they create barriers for trade that haven't existed for years, they'll become poorer. And then we'll have a swing back to more integrationist politicians like Merkel again. So in the short term, she'll lose her position, but in history will prove that her actions were right.
Are you surprised that a woman like Angela Merkel could survive the severe scrutiny of an age that characterized by male chauvinism in European politics? Although remarkable progress has been made in European politics in electing women into public offices, but she came from a priest family in East Germany, and she escaped narrowly from the tyranny of East Germany, and her mentor was Hermann Kohl, late Chancellor of Germany. She looked boring for many of the Chinese observers, and yet she was able to manage this biggest economy in the European Union so well, despite the devastating financial crisis as well as the refugee crisis. What do you think of the miracles that might be used to characterize her political performance?
I think she always had a higher purpose in mind. I think because of her upbringing, she was uniquely prepared for the politics of the last decade. She was able to chat with Obama, and she was able to be a good friend of China. She was a perfect political bridge between East and West.
You mean she's hopelessly practical in dealing with China, the United States, and even Russia?
I mean that she's incredibly committed to world peace and harmonious politics globally.
What do you think of Angela Merkel, the image that can be compared in Chinese to Da Ma in our vocabulary?
Of course, just by looking, you think she maybe like is calling Da, but Da Ma is not a bad word. Da Ma is a word to say.
Is your Mandarin good enough to understand
Yeah, I
Da Ma?
understand that. It's a good
You are
phrase.
very friendly.
Yes.
You are close to the people,
Yes.
especially you are close to the grassroots.
But it's
people.
also very close to the image of a noisy dance in the square when night falls. I mean, it's very disturbing for the neighbors.
Anyway, I think the magic power for Angela Merkel is because she has done very good about economic development. So economic performance is gorgeous. So that list, I think that gorgeous list is uncomparable with any other male presidents or prime minister. Those like France or UK. And
Italy.
Yeah, Italy, not mention Italy, and then there's Spanish or North, South European countries. None of them can compare like Germans. Very good, achievable economic development. So that's the biggest strong point can support the Merkel to go forward. But now I also agree with you. This coming year's election, she's facing unprecedented challenge.
Unprecedented.
It's not because she has been in power for such a long time. People want to see the new face, whatever. It's not that one. Because in Germany, we haven't seen very strong those like leftist, rightist people coming forward to challenge her power. It's because, I think it's because refugee issue is one of that, but I think she has already dealt with that one. Yeah, to somehow, because she changed and then say agree upon, have very strict regulation to check who and who, and also those refugee center, even located in Germany, now they have also have a very careful detail those work to check who and who, and then put into different catalog. And then once everything has been identified, and then those refugees can go to the society to be arranged some position.
Don't question the German ability to be very demanding about details, about the quality of what they do.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
true.
because
That's
I
true.
like German products.
Yes.
I'm a fan,
Even
big fan of the
France, I
German
visited
products.
early this year. I have been invited by the French foreign minister to be a special guest there. So I visited all those refugee identifying center to see they're all working those procedures. So even France now has been doing very well. So I don't think the refugee issue is something can blow down the Lady Merkel.
No, that won't give her the lethal blow. But what about the future of the European Union? After rallying all the member states of the European Union behind her following the devastating sovereign debt crisis, and even after the debilitating blow of the refugee crisis, she vows to maintain the solidarity of the European Union despite the gruesome picture that the Schengen Agreement might fall apart due to the discrepancies concerning the mandatory refugee distribution quota that has been rejected ruthlessly by leaders in Central and Eastern European countries. What do you think of her ability to survive this ordeal?
Well, I think she's certainly been the glue for Europe. She's sorted out the debt crisis in Greece. She's sorted out the debt crisis in other countries. She's the person who's brought everyone together. But I think right now, during a relative recession in Europe, people are beginning to vote with their wallet. They want to find someone to blame it on. They blame it on migrants coming into their country. It's not reasonable, but I don't think Merkel on her own is going to be able to hold the European project together. I think that if Europe...
Simply because she has an arch-rival in the neighboring country, France, Le Pen, leader of a far-right movement. Do you think this symbolic message that she delivered, Marine Le Pen, daughter of the ultra-right movement, would navigate a very interesting course independently to say goodbye to the European Union after if she were able to win the election? What do you think of this dark picture?
Yeah. Actually, the voice spoken by the Lady Le Pen is just early warning. for other European leaders. But there's no hope for her, actually. No hope for Le Pen to
Don't forget that the year
a black horse,
2016 is
whatever.
full of black swan events. Your
No, there's no-
views, the view of
Yes.
the elite might be proved wrong yet again.
But the possibility for the black horse or black, anyway, if emerged in France is very, very low. This
Might not be
possibility.
called a black swan, but
Yeah.
she is after all a black horse in the presidential race. What's her chance, Claire?
No, there's a possibility she gets through. Look, Trump's won. We've just had Brexit. We're having fascism jumping up everywhere. So my view is that she might get through. She'll be a terrible leader for a while. And then when she doesn't fail, when she fails to unite the country, hate is not a policy. Hate might get you elected. You might have a few good sound bites, but you're not going to be sustainable because hate doesn't run multinational economies. It's pretty simple nowadays. 51 of the world's largest 100 economies aren't countries, they're companies. Business is globalized, politics is still parochial. It's the politicians who in the long run can catch up with the internationalization of business, which will have a sustainable economic future, which will get them re-elected.
No, hate speech should not be encouraged. But what do you think of possible inspirations that she might draw from the role that Prime Minister May plays in engineering and overseeing this process of Brexit from continental Europe? Because she, after all, has to follow the collective will of the electorate in preparing for the departure from the European Union. And Le Pen, leader of the ultra-right movement, also vows to say goodbye to the European Union if she were able to win the campaign.
Yeah, it's a fashion. Le Pen and May, they're similar sort of headmistresses. They're trying to get the boys in order. They're trying to get the classroom to be quiet. But when the classroom is quiet, have they got a policy, an economic policy that will deliver and sustain their power? I don't think so. An economic policy today has to be inclusive of classes and races. And racist people who are building walls do not have a sustainable political future because they do not have a sustainable economic
You
policy.
seem to be criticizing the economic policy of Donald Trump, the president-elect, because
I am.
he threatens to reject Muslims and other immigrants from Mexico, even wanted to erect a war along the border with Mexico to prevent the free movement of the labor force. Very quickly, what do you think of the trend of globalization and women leadership?
Well, I would like to see more and more women be the leader. I think, of course. Yeah, I
Maybe
feel
China
a little
should
bit
set a
sad
very good
when
example.
when the UN General Secretary now no longer a female leader, and the UN Hillary Clinton loses.
China stands for the dynamics of globalization, but what about the more women participation in our Chinese politics? We'll leave this question open for our next round of discussion on Dialogue with Yang Rui. That's the brand new name of this program in the year 2016. I warmly welcome you back for yet another discussion.
With
Thank
another
you very much.
position, right?
Thank you very much.
Being the leader.
With that, we come to the end of this chapter in our year-end special series. I thank you very much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.